Now we get to one of my favorite types of libraries to talk about, a slide library. I think the reason it's one of my favorites is because people just don't know about it. And I've been, I have to say, shocked to be working with some of my largest clients who just don't understand why anybody would want this. Well, if you're in your company, no matter how large or small, and you kind of generically ask how many people have to work with PowerPoints on occasion, people will probably laugh and say, what do you mean on occasion? How about every day? It seems like we have the PowerPointization of the nation and people use PowerPoint all the time. The question is, how do we make it easier? How do we make it so people aren't constantly recycling and reusing slides that are old or outdated? How do they know when they've been changed by other people? How do we make sure that they're consistent from one slide presentation to the other so that we look like we're on the top of our game? That's exactly what slide libraries will do for us. Now, once again, they are just a library, so everything you already know is the same. They have titles, they have fields, they have views, they have a ribbon. But I want to show you specifically how to upload slides to a slide library, as well as how to utilize slides from the slide library. The first and most critical thing to always remember is that a slide library is not a document library. A slide library can only contain individual slides. It cannot contain entire PowerPoint files or slide decks or presentations. If you want to keep a presentation, that's fine, but that needs to be stored in a document library. So with that said, when we want to create something new, we certainly could go up to files and we could upload the way that we always have. But notice that the top of the screen is a little bit different than our other libraries have been. We actually have a new and an upload option here. From new, we can see that that actually is only giving us the option for a new folder. If we say upload, this is where we're actually going to upload slides. Now, in order to do this, we have to do so from an existing presentation, so the PowerPoint already has to exist. If that's true, we say, you know what? There's some slides in that presentation that I need to reuse, that maybe there's an org chart, and I know that I need to use it over and over again, and other people can also use it. So we'll click or tap on Publish Slides, and it's going to bring up a Browse window. We need to browse to where the file is that we want to use. Now remember, this is an actual PowerPoint presentation. I happen to have a copy of one that you can use inside of the Working Files folder, or of course you can use any PowerPoint slide deck that you may have. I'm just going to navigate to my desktop, to Working Files, into Chapter 5, and there happen to be a couple of them here. I'm going to go ahead and use the Slides to Reuse file. Now, we have to be a little patient as things work. What it needs to do is go out, open up PowerPoint in the file, and then display a window, because this is the window in which we're going to choose which of the slides we want to use. We could use all of them from a slide deck, but what you really want to do is focus on slides that will be reused in multiple presentations without really changing their content very much. For example, an org chart. If somebody has taken the time to create an organizational chart, and that may be used in different sales presentations or employee orientations, things like that, then that's a really good candidate to keep in a slide library. In this case, we're going to choose the first slide, but we're not going to choose the second slide. Once you select the slides that you want in the library, then you need to take a look at the bottom of the screen. To simplify it, you could choose the check mark that says Show Only Selected Slides. That'll just simplify your view up on the top. More importantly, what you have to take a look at is the Publish To location. Now, since we started in the library, this should already be correct, but it pays you to just take a look. It's in the You Got It site in the Training Slides library, so I think we are good to go. All we need to do at this point is on the bottom right-hand corner, click or tap Publish. Now, here's a couple of my warnings to you. Number one, be patient. There are a lot of different variables going on here. How many slides you've selected, how complicated they are, where the things are located. In other words, are you working from your computer directly to a server that's sitting next to you, or are you going across a multinational network? All of these things may take a little bit of time, but I don't want you to sit here for forever, because this is one of the little, shall we call it, endearing qualities of SharePoint, and that is that we are currently in PowerPoint. And sometimes SharePoint doesn't always come back and refresh itself or make itself active. So I'm going to move up and minimize PowerPoint, because what's actually happened is behind the scenes, the work has been done. Now, my second hint for you is if you come into SharePoint and you don't see anything, remember to refresh your screen. Because PowerPoint was the active window and this web browser never was, you might have the old window when this was empty. It's very common when you're working between Office applications and SharePoint applications to need to refresh the window manually when you come back into SharePoint. It's not an error. It's not a fault. It's the way browsers work. When browsers are not the active window, they usually don't refresh themselves. So if that's the case, just come up, click on your refresh button or however you choose to do that. And in this case, we will now be able to see our slide. Not very exciting maybe, but it is our org chart. It tells us that it's our organization. It tells us the presentation it came from. If there's a description, and of course, all of these are columns that can be modified. So that's how we can get things into a library from the library. But now I want to show you the opposite side. What if you're working in PowerPoint and you say, you know what? I know I want to use this in something else. Well, let's use Alt-Tab to get back to PowerPoint. And let's go ahead and open up that file that we were using just a moment ago. We can go back to Open. It was the Slides to Reuse file from your Working Files folder in the Chapter 5 folder, or any file that you want. And let's say that now we're interested in this second slide. Say, well, you know, this is kind of our policy for retaining what you learn after any one of our training classes. And we want to reuse this and make sure that it's part of all of our training slide decks. How would we do that? Well, this is where it gets really fun. We have to remember that Microsoft SharePoint and Microsoft Office are tightly integrated. But some people never look at things that they haven't seen before. What I mean by that is, if you go to the File tab in Office 2013 or 2010, and to a lesser point 2007, but if you go to the File tab and take a look, you're going to see some things that you may not have noticed before. Most of the things for SharePoint are found under the Share category in 2013. And not only can we invite people to look at things, send things by email, do a live online presentation of our PowerPoint slideshow right from here without any extra services needed, but the very last option is the one that we're talking about. Publish Slide is about publishing slides to a slide library. And it actually gives you a little bit of information. Store slides in a shared location for other people to use, track and review changes, see the latest version, and receive email when changes are made. Let's talk about that functionality a little bit more. We know that storing anything in a SharePoint library means that it's shared and everybody with access can use it. That's nothing new. But slide libraries do have some special functionality. If somebody needs to change a slide, all they need to do is change the one in the library, and everybody else, of course, instantly has access to that slide. With what we're talking about, that means if we changed our policy on retakes, I could change it, and anybody else using it would automatically have access. But what's even better is because SharePoint and PowerPoint talk to each other. When these slides are used, it will actually notify us if a change has been made. Now, we'll get back to that in just a minute, but that's what this receive emails is all about. For now, we're just trying to publish things to the slide library. So we're going to choose Publish Slides. We're going to see a window that should look very familiar because it's exactly the same one that we saw when we started from within the library itself. We check one or more slides that we want to use. We make sure that it's going to the correct location. If you need to, you can copy and paste the slide library from SharePoint before you start this process. Then you simply click Publish like we did before. This time, however, we did not have to have SharePoint open to begin with. We did not have to start in SharePoint. We actually started from within PowerPoint. Now we know, of course, that we don't want to sit here and wait too long. But the good news is, and this is why I told you earlier, it's not an error that it works the way it does when you start from within the library. It's good because if we're working in PowerPoint, we don't want it to bounce us over to SharePoint just to see it. But we can use a good old Alt-Tab, move back over here, and refresh our screen, which we now know we probably have to do, and we'll see that we now have a second slide. We've been able to load a slide from within the library or from within PowerPoint in either direction. Okay, we've made a lot of progress in understanding slide libraries in SharePoint. In the last part of this video, we'll take on the final topic, which is kind of important, and that is how to use slides from a SharePoint slide library.